Good evening, everybody. Welcome to session 5 of Kids with Purpose. So I'm really excited about tonight's video that you're going to be seeing. I interviewed a lady named Nancy Stolick, and she is the education manager for an organization in town called Friends of the Rappahannock, and it's also known as FOR. So Friends of the Rappahannock is pretty much just that. They are friends to the Rappahannock River, and they help keep the river safe and clean and healthy. So Miss Nancy is going to be talking about all of the ways that they help to do that for the river. Since the river doesn't have a voice, they almost have to speak for the river and make sure that the river is protected. So that kind of leads us into our theme for the night, which is protecting the environment. Now, we can show our respect for God by being a good steward of His creation. We know that God made everything, and caring for everything that He made is not just something we should do just on Earth Day or every once in a while. We should do it every single day. So it's actually a requirement of our Christian faith to be good stewards of the environment. So God calls us to protect the planet, and we should always have respect for everything that He made. Now, there's lots of ways that we can do that, simple ways. We can do things like riding our bikes when we can, instead of driving a car. We can eat leftover food, make sure there's no waste. I know that's kind of not fun to do sometimes, but eating leftovers is actually a really, really good way to protect the environment. We can conserve water by not taking long showers, or maybe not doing a lot of loads of laundry. We can also use environmentally friendly cleaning products, things that don't hurt the environment with different sort of chemicals that might actually get into the river. Or we can just do things like recycle. And I know that you guys do all of those things every single day, but maybe this week you can think of a new way that you can help protect our planet. Using new biodegradable products, or reusing a material that you already have to make something else. That's actually a really, really great way to also protect the environment. So I also encourage you to take a walk down to the river sometime this week, or maybe in the next few weeks when it's not so cold. So you're going to see all of the beautiful trees and the animals and the birds that kind of inhabit that area, but you'll also just get a glimpse of the beautiful river that runs right through our city. So I'm sure you've had a chance to obviously walk down by the river. Maybe you've thrown rocks into it. Maybe you have actually had a chance to swim in it, or even maybe gone tubing down the river, or canoeing or something like that. Our river is a beautiful but also really fun thing that we have that's right in our very backyard, so to speak. So I'm so excited that you're hearing this video tonight from Miss Nancy. And our Bible verse comes from the book of Genesis. And it's really simple. It's only one verse, but like I said, God made everything, and He wants us to protect the planet. And so I think the book of Genesis kind of encompasses everything of creation and how we can also just be good stewards of our faith and of the planet. This is coming from chapter 1, and it's verse 31. It said, God saw all that He had made, and it was very good. It was very good. Everything that He made was very good. So enjoy the video. There's a couple of discussion questions at the end, so feel free to put those in the comments, in the chat. And I look forward to seeing you all again next week for week 6 of Kids with Purpose.
Okay. All right, hello everybody, and welcome to Kids with Purpose. This is week 5. So last week you guys got to do some scavenger hunt service projects, and this week we are going to be hearing from a special friend. Her name is Nancy Stolick, and she works for the Friends of the Rappahannock, and she is going to tell you all about what she does and how you can get involved. And so I will go ahead and introduce Miss Nancy. Thanks for coming today.
Hello, everyone. I'm really excited to be with your youth group. So yes, I'm Nancy, and I work at Friends of the Rappahannock. Sometimes people will shorten our name to FOR. So if you hear somebody talking about FOR, that is us, Friends of the Rappahannock. Our building is right down on Fall Hill Road in Fredericksburg, right on the river. So Friends of the Rappahannock the main thing that we do is all of our actions are to make sure that the river stays scenic and healthy. And we do that in many different ways. But our 3 primary ways are through advocacy, and I'll explain that what that is in a second. Advocacy, restoration, and education. So advocacy means we speak for the river. A river can't speak for itself, so we get involved to speak for the river. If something happens, if something's going to happen that's next to the river and it's going to maybe not be a healthy thing for the river, we get involved at the local and the state level to find ways that are more healthy for the river and also get the project done. So one thing that's always good for rivers is planting a lot of trees. So if there's an area that's by the river that's going to have construction, we try to make sure, for instance, that there's trees planted between the construction and the river. So we do advocacy. We have a representative that goes into, listens to the General Assembly down in the state, in this capital, and they look for bills that are up to pass, and to see how we can support them, that if they're river friendly, or see if they need a little bit of help to become more river friendly. As you know, we've been having a lot of flooding recently. So the lower Rappahannock, the people who live down there, they get a lot of flooding, and they have different sewer systems than city sewer. So it really affects them when the level of water raises.
Is
so
that near like Fall Hill area on like along
downriver, like down where the river goes into the, goes into Chesapeake Bay.
Okay.
There's a lot of flooding. Yes, we have flooding here, but they have even more than we do.
Yeah.
So so we work for solutions to help so that they can have better septic systems, and also that solution doesn't affect the river. So let's see, advocacy. And the one big thing we do around here is for advocacy is river safety. So not a lot of people are in tune to what you do. When you look at City Dock, the water looks very calm in Fredericksburg, but at our river, since we do have a lot of trees around it, which is a good thing, if the trees fall in, you can't see them. So if yours floating along in your tube, you could get stuck on them, and those could be very dangerous. So we go over education with every group of kids we meet, and to make sure that, you know, if you go anywhere near the river, even up to your knees, wear a life jacket. That's very important.
Definitely.
Right? So that's advocacy. That's our speaking for the river. And then restoration kind of means like to restore. So if somebody takes an old house and fixes it all up, that's restoration. So if there's areas along the river that have been maybe damaged a little, either through cutting down a lot of trees so someone could have a view and it loosens the dirt, we go in and plant trees. Planting trees seems like a simple thing, but it's incredibly important to keeping the river healthy for many reasons. And one of the simple ones is, just think of this. In the summer, if you're really hot, do you stand in the middle of a playground, or do you go find a tree? You find a tree, right? Because it's shady. So shade seems like it's a simple thing, but actually the cooler the water, the more oxygen it can hold. And when it can hold more oxygen, more of all the things that live in the water can stay alive. So trees are very important. Last year, we planted 39,000 trees along the banks of the river. Yeah, we're really proud of that, because that's hard to do without our usual groups of kids.
Right.
We had to find adults and other ways to do the things that we normally do. So that's advocacy, speaking for the river. And then there's restoration, which upriver we do the tree planting. Downriver, where the river goes into the bay, so it's more salty there, that's where we have oysters, and we do oyster restoration down in the lower parts of the river. And oysters need a hard surface in order for the baby oysters to land on and grow. So we have a whole organization of ways that we get spent shells. So if a restaurant serves oysters and they have those used shells, we collect all of those and then pour them back in, and it creates those hard surfaces.
Wow, I did not know that.
Yeah, it's quite a big thing. Usually with younger folks, we don't get into there's a whole process to that.
Sure.
But dumping the oysters is very easy.
Yeah.
But the reason why we need them is more complicated. It has to do with all the dirt that's in the river. which is another whole thing. And then my department, I'm the education manager,
Mhm.
then we do education. So we have our field trip program where in a normal year, we see 7,000 kids at our location in Fredericksburg for field trips, which of course didn't happen this year. So this year, in place of that, we developed what we're calling OLLs, outside learning labs, and they're right on our 17-acre nature preserve. And we had various topics of ones that we usually do in our field trip program, like water quality and why is a riparian buffer a buffer of trees along a river? Why is that good? So we made some of those up for the fall, and we just made some up about just nature things, like how are these skulls different, and why do different animals have different skulls, and ID the skulls. And then we did that in the fall, and we're also doing that in the spring, making up some new ones. And we usually go into schools too to talk about meaningful watershed educational experiences, which is really just a whole way that we help teachers with their watershed curriculum. It usually happens in 4th, 6th, and 9th grade, but it can happen at any time a teacher's covering that. And it helps the kids learn about the issues in water, of the water and the river in their areas, and what they can do to help whatever the main issue is in their area. I have been at Friends of Rappahannock for 7 years now. And it's kind of funny, I got interested in Friends of the Rappahannock because when I was a little girl, I grew up near the water in Connecticut. So I grew up right on the shores of the water in Connecticut. And I worked in a program all the time, similar to Friends of the Rappahannock, but for salty water, like marine oceanology. And I was a student going through the same type of program that I am now a teacher for.
That's great. So interestingly enough, I actually grew up in New England too. And so, you know, you mentioned the oyster thing. I used to work in a laboratory up in Maine and did some oyster shucking and really worked to, we did some, not so much water quality, but we were a shellfish company that actually was a commercial shellfish company, but I worked in the laboratory up there, and I'm actually a biology major. So what is your background?
Oh, well, biology, but then also software programming.
Okay.
Funny.
Yep.
And, but it's all science, like logical.
Sure.
You have to be logical, what affects what. And then looped back around to teaching, which I've pretty much done like all along my whole life.
Yeah, but you just, it kind of piqued your interest, I guess. And I'm such a logical person too, and I love science. So this kind of it's all really interesting to me as you're talking through just, you know, the water and talking through, you know, the oysters in the bay. I'm just remembering, you know what I used to do in my old job too. And now I'm a children's ministry director, obviously, but very cool. So you worked there for 7 years as the education manager. And so I guess now I wanted to ask, are there things that families can potentially do even now, you know, or coming up into the spring as the weather gets a little bit warmer, you know, volunteer opportunities? You mentioned the outside learning labs, which will be, I guess, are technically open, but volunteering, do you have, you know, big campaigns for families or for people in the community to volunteer?
Well, they are starting to do signups for river cleanups. And again, that sounds really simple, but that is huge. Because in our area, especially in Fredericksburg, all of those hard surfaces, like all the roads and all the pavement and all the parking lots, the water, when it rains, washes over those areas and takes everything with it. And there's no filtering, and it goes right into the Rappahannock or any local waterway. So we're always doing cleanups. And I do believe that our river stewards will be putting up some public ones. Of course, we've been a little worried about putting up public ones because we have to keep the numbers so small in each group, and we're handling all the little pickers and but I do believe that Adam, our river steward for Fredericksburg, is going to start doing some local ones. So that would be on our website if they're local, and you can sign up. He'll have a little portal there.
That would be wonderful. We've done some trail cleanups as a church, but doing a river cleanup, I think, would be a really great opportunity. So, yeah, I'll keep an eye out for that for sure. Now, how many people work at the FOR, and it is just, you know, I know where your location is, obviously. Do you have different, there's no different branches, but do you have people that are working like kind of outside the community, and I'm sure doing different, you know, different jobs throughout, I guess, the entire length of the river?
So actually, we are so excited. We have 2 satellite offices now. So the Rappahannock River is 185 miles long, and it starts in the Blue Ridge Mountains, and it goes into the Chesapeake Bay, one of the four rivers in Virginia that empty into the Chesapeake Bay. Ours is in the middle in Fredericksburg, and then we have an office in Tappahannock, so the down in the coastal plain. And there's one woman that works there in education and restoration. And then we just opened another office in the headwaters near Culpeper, and there's 2 women work there. They do education and restoration. So altogether, I think we now have 19 people, which is great. We were able to do some really amazing things despite the challenges that we had last year. And FOR has been around since 1985.
Oh.
It started as just a group that were paddlers, and they wanted to clean up areas of the river. They would meet and clean up areas of the river. So they called themselves Friends of the Rappahannock because they were being a friend by cleaning up the river. Here, and then we added all of these other programs over the years, an education component, a building, boats.
Yes, definitely. You know, I can see, you know, the evolution is, you know, now it's a little bit more complicated and multifaceted, but, you know, clearly you guys are doing some amazing work in the community. My last question then would be, you know, as a child that is watching this video, or as a parent, you know, I'm sure that we see the Rappahannock, we enjoy, you know, splashing, throwing rocks into it, potentially tubing down it, canoeing down it. And so we love having the Rappahannock, obviously, you know, at our, you know, to have access to it. But hearing, you know, from you and knowing that there are some challenges that the river faces, how can we best be a friend to the Rappahannock?
So actually, all those things you mentioned are one of the best ways to be a friend, because when you grow up playing in the river, you care about the river and you care about the water. So just being invested in the health of the river is the #1 thing you can do. So I would say keep playing in the river, wear your vest, keep playing in the river because you will care. And then because you care, you will make sure that when you see that piece of litter, you pick it up. You can also help to learn about the water situation in your area. Education is always great. So just know there's 2 main pollutants in our water here in the Rappahannock River. The first is sediment. We don't think of dirt as a pollutant, but it is. And as people, we can't do much because we're not in charge of the construction, just children playing in the river, but just be aware. And then the second is extra nutrients. So this is something we can all do about. Extra nutrients is like fertilizer. So over fertilizing your yard, it can be a problem because as water washes down from rainstorms, it goes into the storm drains and out into the river. And that produces a lot of algae that then dies. And when it dies, it decomposes and takes oxygen out. So just simply follow directions on the bag if you fertilize. Follow them closely. Don't think, oh, if I put more fertilizer on, my grass will be greener. That's not how it works. And the other thing is just don't fertilize when it's rainy. So don't fertilize in the spring, fertilize in the fall. And pick up your doggy waste.
Oh, that's a good one.
Because that is, I mean, a lot of our kids, we're the dog walkers. So picking up the dog waste is a way to not get that extra nutrients, because manure is extra nutrients. And we can all pick up our dog waste.
Yes. That's great. This has been so wonderful. So for all of you watching, I hope that this gave you a little insight as to what the Friends of the Rappahannock does. It's very, very, very important work in our community. We see the river, we pass by the river all the time, and now you know a little bit more about the people and the organization that helps to keep the river clean and healthy. So if you have any additional questions, feel free to look at the website, which I think is riverfriends.org. Am I right?
Yeah.
Okay. So riverfriends.org, and I can post that in the comments. And then any other questions that you might have, reach out to me or directly to info@riverfriends.org, and Miss Nancy will be able to help you. But looks like we have some opportunities to potentially get involved. So this has been really, really insightful. And for all the kids watching at home, thank you guys for just tuning in. And Miss Nancy, thank you.
Thank you for having me. I'm honored.
Oh, yes, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to meet you and talk to you. So, all right, take care. Okay. All right, let me stop.